This is the Eye on Potatoes, brought to you by the National Potato Council. The Eye is the place to tune in for conversations with growers and thought leaders on advocacy, production, and all things potatoes. Now, here's your host, Lane Nordlund.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Eye on Potatoes podcast. I'm your host, Lane Nordlund, and it was a big day and morning for our friends out in Washington, D.C., whether as the National Potato Council staff, our friends in the industry, and of course, members of Congress that sit on the House Agriculture Committee, because we saw the markup of the House version of the 2024 Farm Bill, or as the real title is, the Farm, Food, and National Security Act of 2024. And joining us here today from our nation's capital, Kam Quarles, CEO of the National Potato Council, joining us. And Kam, did you get any sleep last night, since it was 12:38 officially when the vote was taken in the House chambers yesterday, or this morning, I guess?
I got it. Good to see you. I got a little bit of sleep, and I've been drinking my coffee out of my National Potato Council mug all morning. So I missed a few hours there.
Well, I'm glad to see that you have that limited edition Eye on Potatoes podcast coffee mug to really enjoy.
Indeed.
I mean, that's one of the highlights of Potato Expo every year, when I get to sign autographs and hand those out. But Kam, obviously, this has been a work in progress. A lot of uncertainty surrounding this farm bill. The last time you and I spoke face to face was out in Washington, D.C., just a few weeks ago. And that's when the chair of the House Ag Committee told so many farmers and ranchers that were out in D.C. that time of the year that he would be having a markup before Memorial Day. He held true to his word. I guess from your perspective with the National Potato Council, and of course with the Specialty Crop Alliance, how are things shaping up? What was that process like, and what was it like on the Hill yesterday?
Yeah, I've got to give a lot of credit to the chairman of the House Ag Committee, G.T. Thompson from Pennsylvania. He, as you said, he has held true to his word in terms of what the process would look like. Obviously, you've got a lot of sort of policy details to work out, but just knowing what the timing was going to look like well in advance was incredibly helpful, I think, for everybody, regardless of where folks fell on the bill. For specialty crops, there's a lot of great things in the bill for our industry, but just having a visibility into what the process was going to look like was really useful. And ultimately, as you said, he delivered it right at the timing he said he would. And so now we've kicked off the process, and that's a good thing. We've got to keep the momentum up. That's going to be the big challenge moving forward.
Now, obviously, when a markup occurs, every member of the committee has an opportunity to speak, make a statement, get their sound bites for their constituents back home. But it was a lengthy markup. In your experience in previous farm bills, what was that like in terms of is that pretty traditional, seeing it take that long for a markup to take place? Walk us through that from previous bills in the past.
Yeah, it seemed a little longer to me. That we got into the realm of everything's been said, but not everybody's said it yet. It was pretty obvious that that's kind of where we got to. I've been around here long enough and done enough farm bills, Lane, that I remember that when all of the members and the staff, as well as the industry representatives, could all sit in the committee chamber together. Now, over successive farm bills, there's now an overflow room right next to the committee room. And this time around, there was actually a second overflow room to accommodate all of the various people who came kind of out of the woodwork to see what was going on farm policy. It looked like a relatively few number of them had a production ag background. A lot of them are kind of involved in other titles in the bill, and I think that kind of reflects what the chairman, both in the House and Chairwoman Stabenow over in the Senate, are facing in terms of getting this bill to the finish line. There's just a lot of folks a lot more folks today than there were 20 or 30 years ago who are invested not just in production agriculture policy, but rural development, nutrition, all of the various things that the Farm Bill now comprises. It's quite a collection of characters. Shoot, we even had protesters yesterday. That was amazing. They had to shut the hearing down for a few minutes.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was texting a few of my friends that were in Longworth. Was that where the hearing was
Longworth,
yesterday?
yeah.
Yep. And just seeing how things are going, and they sent me a few pictures of those protesters. But you mentioned nutrition, and obviously there are the farm programs of it, but also the nutrition, the Title 12 of the Farm Bill. How, from your perspective, why is it that we continue to have the farm side and the nutrition side together? I know during the first Farm Bill that was brought together and brought up because they believe that a Farm Bill would never pass without the nutrition aspect. Why do we continue to see that those two titles still under the same legislation, excuse me? And I guess what's the perspective on that from the National Potato Council when you're working with elected officials in crafting a bill?
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of the 360-degree view of that, or at least I'll try to. When you put up kind of the pie chart of Farm Bill spending in front of growers, farmers, ranchers across the country, and they see that 85% of the bill goes to nutrition, it generally, they have a negative reaction to that. Kind of drives them crazy. And that's understandable because, that when you look at that amount of spending not going to production agriculture, people are rightfully saying, well, why do they call it a farm bill? This looks like a nutrition bill with a little bit of farm spending in there somewhere. But from my perspective, the answer to all of this is simply the math of the House of Representatives. With every 10 years, we do a census and we reallocate House districts based on population flows in the United States. And every census, we have fewer and fewer districts that are truly rural in nature and truly have a predominant relationship back to production agriculture and back to the folks who grow our food. That reality means we need to come up with the votes from somewhere. And the original deal that was struck so many years ago has become even more important today, in my opinion, in making sure that a farm bill gets passed. When you have far less than even 15% of the overall districts in the House have any connection to production agriculture, you've got to go find a heck of a lot of votes to get a farm bill passed, and that means reaching out to urban districts and making that, it's the classic case of you've got to find commonality. Something's got to be in it for everybody in order to move this big a bill along. And the nutrition title is it for a lot of those districts that have no connection to agriculture.
And, Cam, thank you for that explanation. As you said, I think a lot of farmers and industry stakeholders get a little frustrated when they see that aspect of it. But just having a little bit of the background and understanding how the legislation truly works and trying to get things passed is essential. And as we bring up the phrase trying to get things passed, what will be the next steps as we look for full consideration in the House? We did see 33 yay votes in favor of the bill coming out of committee, 21 against, and 4 of those yay votes were Democrats, breaking the party line. I think some of those votes actually shocked the ranking member. There was a little bit of a hot mic moment there at the end there, where the chairman and the ranking member were discussing the vote, and he had a little bit of a surprise in his voice. But as we move forward, what can we expect to see when it comes to the full House taking this up? What are some of the GOP members going to react to the price tag, and how are some of the Democratic members going to vote? Are they going to hold strong together and oppose it? I guess what's your magic 8 ball or guess on what that may look like?
Yeah, so you're right about the vote coming out of the committee last night. Given a lot of the politics going into that markup, the vote was very positive. Having it be a bipartisan bill that's reported out of committee is a very good thing. Typically, farm bills have been very bipartisan. You could have fights amongst commodities, fights amongst regions in the country, but often you had well-meaning members on both sides of the aisle would get together and say, "Hey, this is a good thing to do for rural America, and we're going to move this bill forward." A lot of the partisanship and kind of volatility, exotic voices, to say it gently, that have kind of populated Congress the ag committees aren't totally immune to that. And so you see that partisanship creeping in. That being said, moving a bill out of committee, it's a $1.5 trillion bill too, Lane. I mean, when you think about the price tag overall, that is not the easiest thing. With all of these titles, all of that cost, it's not the easiest thing to move something forward and get agreement on. And so I think the folks who did that should be commended. As I mentioned before, a lot of really good things in there for the specialty crop industry. Next step is, how do you get the votes together to move it across the House floor? And clearly, there's a chunk of the majority party of the Republicans in the House who, regardless of what's in a farm bill, they see that price tag and they're just going to vote no. So you've got to strike a deal with the Democrats. The only path forward to getting a bill across the House floor involves a substantial amount of kind of middle of the road Republicans joining hands with sort of the more moderate members in the Democratic Party. How they do that, there's going to be the product of a lot of negotiation. I think the bill is going to be, hopefully the specialty crop provisions remain and the things that production agriculture cares about. But there probably are going to be some changes needed to be made in order for the House Democratic leadership to put their folks behind it. And that is a very normal thing. It's part of the process. The big question I think everybody's got is, as we look at the calendar today, we're going into a Memorial Day recess. We're at the end of May. November elections are not that far away. Can we keep the momentum going and get a bill to the president's desk by the end of this year? That is a big unknown. This is just the House kicking off this process. Senate is going to need to respond if we're going to achieve that goal, and that's an entirely different environment.
I'm glad you brought up the Senate. I want to talk to you about that, your thoughts on that. But first, let's thank our friends at Syngenta for bringing you today's Eye on Potatoes podcast conversation. We'll be back with Kam Quarles right after this.
Syngenta cares about potato producer productivity and offers a wide variety of seed treatment options, protecting your investment from the beginning. Syngenta's all-liquid seed treatment Cruiser Max Vibrance potato offers protection from harmful insect pests, including Colorado potato beetle, green peach aphid, and leafhoppers. Additionally, Cruiser Max Vibrance potato delivers immediate protection against fungal diseases. Contact your local retailer for information on Cruiser Max Vibrance potato, Cruiser Max Potato Extreme, or Maxim MZ to find out what best fits your farm needs.
Again, a big thank you to our friends at Syngenta for bringing you today's Eye on Potatoes podcast. Kam Quarles, CEO of the National Potato Council, joins us just a few hours after the House Ag Committee approved and marked up the 2024 Farm Bill. We'll just shorten it and call it the Farm Bill like we usually do, Kam. But obviously, we're going to see a lot of debate and discussions as that bill makes its way to the full House floor. But then we have the Senate to consider, and Chairwoman Stabenow has released some text of her version of the farm bill. What are we seeing on that front? What are some of the discussions, and what could be a collaboration between the two chambers and trying to get a farm bill passed here in 2024? We got elections coming up, and that could be a big driver in a lot of the decision making out there, I'd assume.
Yeah, I think it is, and that those calculations will probably change as the election winds start to swirl and blow in different directions. Um, I think I've got to take both Chairman Thompson at his word and Chairwoman Stabenow at her word that they are very committed to reauthorizing a farm bill that's good for production agriculture, good for all the constituents of the farm bill, and ultimately provides certainty for producers for the coming 5 years. Um, that being said, the House, anybody who expects perfection at any one of these multiple steps in the process is just you're either not concentrating or not paying attention, or you're just not very good at this process. It is to be expected that there are going to be challenges. There's going to be imperfections in each version of a bill, whether it's House or Senate or where we are. The trick really is to celebrate the good things that are embedded, hopefully maintain the good things, flag the stuff that needs changing or outright discarding, and then most importantly, keep the process moving forward. If you stall out here, or if you stall out in the Senate or in conference or wherever, you sit around, you don't get a farm bill. And the only thing that does is empower our foreign adversaries who have their own versions of the farm bill. And they're very, very happy to go out and take market share away from American producers, be it here at home or in valuable export markets. So that doesn't serve anybody's interest very well. And that's why we're so kind of pushing as hard as we possibly can to make sure the farm bill gets done this year. There's getting into some extension cycle, as you and I have talked before, Lane. That is a path to increasing lack of competitiveness by American producers, and we can't have that happen.
And you bring up that extension. Obviously, an extension of the 2018 Farm Bill was approved, and that will run through the end of September of this year. And then another extension would have to be put into place, or we'll revert back a few decades to a previous farm policy that was created when you and I weren't even thought of back in the day, Cam. But as we look at this from the specialty crop end of things, what are some of those key wins that you see in these farm bill versions, and hopefully will stay in place as we make our way through the legislative process?
Yeah, I think obviously the House bill is out there. It's been approved. The House Ag Committee's reported bill is out there. The historic investments in research for specialty crops, pest and disease exclusion. You've got new money for specifically for mechanization research that may provide some strength for challenges in terms of getting ag labor out to farms. You've got specialty crop block grants are plussed up. And then I was mentioning how important global trade is. You also have a doubling of a lot of our export resources in the trade title of the Farm Bill. That is a great thing. I think if you went to the Specialty Crop Farm Bill Alliance leaders a year ago and said, this is what the House Ag Committee is going to produce in a very challenging budget environment, a lot of us wouldn't have believed that a year ago. But here we are. It's a great thing. Again, is it a perfect bill? There are some challenges, clearly things that we want to flag. Some of the ways that they got to the resources for the bill are going to be the subject of a huge amount of debate, not just from specialty crops. There's a host of folks who are going to be interested in that. But the big benefit is the process is moving forward. I think you've also got some focus in risk management in the crop insurance space. Some great new groundwork is being set by the House Ag Committee. I think that's going to get matched by the Senate Agriculture Committee when they start producing their bill and get it out in the public. There's a lot to like about how this Farm Bill process is starting. Again, though, it is a process, and if we fail to keep the momentum going, this whole thing will collapse very quickly. And folks really need to be engaging with their members of Congress. Got to be pushing forward to get a bill done this year. It's absolutely imperative for our industry.
Now, Cam, separate from the Farm Bill, obviously this and other key topics are going to be discussed coming up in Fort Collins, Colorado for the summer meeting for the National Potato Council. Just quickly, what's in store for attendees here in a few weeks?
Yeah, we're really excited. So we're in Colorado this year because our president, Bob Mativi, great producer from the great state of Colorado, he is our president for 2024. So we're going to be in Fort Collins, Colorado here at the end of June. Terrific opportunity to sit down with the entire industry. We're really we're thrilled to be able to be back in Colorado. It's been about thinking back about 5 years since we've been in Colorado for our summer meeting. We have a fantastic program lined up. Obviously, all of the business of the National Potato Council will be conducted, but we've got some fantastic industry events, and it's a slightly more casual meeting than you might see at our Washington Summit or Potato Expo. Great opportunity to see all our friends in the industry and kind of get back together and have a good time.
Now, speaking of meetings, we should mention, because I know on some of our past shows, we've mentioned the 2025 location for Potato Expo, but there's been a little bit of a change due to the Mirage shutting down in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that was a change we made right at the time of our Washington Summit. We sat down with our board, and we did not want to be in the position, Lane, of when the music stopped, having no chair, and it was very obvious. So the Mirage, where we were set to go in Vegas, was sold to the Hard Rock. It will become the new Hard Rock Resort on the Strip. We felt at that time that it was highly likely that would mean the Mirage was going to look like a giant construction hole in the ground when it came January of 2025. We made a shift to Orlando, a fantastic facility, the Marriott Orlando World Center, terrific venue for the expo. So we have made that shift. And then just a couple of weeks ago, it was announced that indeed the Mirage, the new Hard Rock, will be a giant hole in the ground for 3 years. I think they've shut down, and it was a huge amount of money that they're paying out to their employees who are going to be displaced for a very long time. So our move back in February was very, very well timed. I'm very thankful we were able to find this great new spot for the expo.
Well, again, I just wanted to make sure that folks knew there was a change in location, but hey, you can ride the teacups over at Disney World now, though.
Yeah, and hopefully the weather's good. There's golf. You're just down the road from all of the Disney resorts, so we think it's going to be terrific. Not to mention the facility; it is perfect to host the quality of Potato Expo people have come to expect in the last few years.
Well, again, check that out at National Potato Council online. Cam, I know it's a busy day right before Memorial Day weekend, a lot of activities in our nation's capital. Any last thoughts before I let you get back to your day in the Beltway?
No, just happy Memorial Day. Very glad to kick off this first round of creating a new farm bill. Great to talk to you, Lane. Hope you have a terrific weekend.
Again, same to you, Cam. Happy Memorial Day, and we'll continue to cover the progress of the Farm Bill here on the Eye on Potatoes podcast. Until then, I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the National Potato Council's Eye on Potatoes podcast with host Lane Nordlund. For more information, visit nationalpotatocouncil.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.